So then why are we blaming social media for influencing women? If it wasn't for women on social media, there would be no influence for girls to have, because girls don't seek out men in mass to be influenced, to aspire to imitate what they see emulated by women, by men. So we're blaming social media we're blaming the gun for the death. We're blaming social media for the degeneracy and the degradation of the average modern day woman, and saying that social media is what's influencing people, when in actuality, social media is the gun to which women are using to kill little girls.
Who is shaping young women more today? Parents, social media, men, or other women?
Honestly, I would say for parents who don't have their children structured, it would be social media. Men and women dominate social media. So a lot of them are getting their guidance, their ideas of what relationships look like, their value. They're comparing themselves, they're preparing themselves. And a lot of them are, if not all of them, because they're getting misdirection and misinformation. So I would definitely say social media is a incredible influence on these young people and what they think, particularly in relationships.
Man, it's such a complex question. Parents like myself that took parenting very seriously. I took my kids out of school. I make sure they're not on social media. They're very limited to seeing social media like Instagram and YouTube. And then we also got people that cannot afford the time to actually focus on their children solely, because they got to go to work. So they send their kids off to public school, and then they got to go to daycares. They send to grandma or aunties or maybe the neighborhood. It's very complex. And I think what we see is mainly the kids that are raised by social media on social media. The kids that is doing well, that is doing excellent in spelling bees and getting college degrees at a very young age. And we don't push those out because it's not viral enough. People do not focus on healthy relationships with children, parenting, and life. So we see the social media led kids more than the ones that are doing the actual work. They're not visible. That's how I see it. And I would love to, we as a culture, since it's a little dead space, I would love as a culture, we would champion the kids that deserve some light and some visibility, that's doing the right things and doing the hard work and putting their head down. That would be a beautiful thing. We could start a culture like that. We got to make smart cool, because we can make everything else cool. We can make degeneracy cool. We can also make smart cool as well, because everybody follow us in reality.
There's a very philosophical question. I think Sharon expanded upon it. I don't think it's one thing. I would say social media probably has the strongest influence because it does dictate typically, just social culture. You could be the strongest parent you want to be. You could be the strongest unit you want to be. But like I've said on these panels before, raising children, raising young girls, young boys has more to do with the community they're in than just the parental unit. And a lot of us do not have strong tribes and strong communities. So without trying to allow the influences, it's going to leak through. And it's not always bad. I don't remember when I was growing up that prom was such a prominent thing. I think lately you've been seeing these kids celebrate prom like they going to the Grammys, Rolls Royces and whatnot. I'm like, what? So, and that's not a bad thing, but it is still influential. It just speaks to how powerful it is. So I think that social media overwhelmingly has a stronghold on the way people move forward in their life current day.
I would also agree with everyone else that social media, especially with this generation, shapes daily reinforcement of ourselves, because social media shows you what's attractive. Social media shows you what gets attention, what relationships look like, what success look like, what kind of women should be rewarded per se socially. And I also think second to that would be other women. I think that a lot of times we compare ourselves to what well, I guess it still like boils down to social media, but a lot of times women look at other women and feel like that's how they should be, or that's how they should look, or their femininity should be like this, or their confidence should be like that. So I would think that a lot of women, second to social media, I feel like a lot of women look to women. A lot of trends, a lot of belonging, lifestyle aspirations, the perfect man, perfect everything. I think a lot of women look to other women for that too. So
true. So I want to ask you a question, because you always strike me as someone who's a logical person anytime we have a conversation, and you have been consistently having genuine conversations with people up here. If I went and shot somebody, did the gun kill them or did I?
You did.
Right. And I used the gun as a tool to kill them, right?
Absolutely.
So then why are we blaming social media for influencing women? If it wasn't for women on social media, there would be no influence for girls to have, because girls don't seek out men in mass to be influenced, to aspire to imitate what they see emulated by men. So we're blaming social media, we're blaming the gun for the death. We're blaming social media for the degeneracy and the degradation of the average modern day woman, and saying that social media is what's influencing people, when in actuality, social media is the gun to which women are using to kill little girls.
I mean, I think that's fair. It's a deep question. It's layered. I approach it as social media because it is one of the most prominent machines. If we're gonna be very, very direct, the influence of all cultures always gonna be man heavy. Social media is just a component of the ideals that are made up in boardrooms, social agendas, and things of that nature. So to your point, it is a tool. And a lot of times who carries out the prominence of a culture typically is like the parrots of society, which are the women. The ideals don't come from women's perspective, though. Most of the time, they don't even have an original idea of what success looks like, what relationships looks like, fantasy, romance. That's us. So if you want to pull it apart, men are definitely responsible for what is occurring. Certain subsets of men. The tool, social media being, because it reaches. TV is the same thing. Radio was the same thing. So it is a tool. But if you want to really, really pull it apart, yeah, it is a perspective of certain groups of men who feel it necessary to alter the perspective of people.
So then let me ask you this. If I influence you, right? I say, hey, True, Buddy was talking about your mama. Take this gun and go kill him. And you go do it, right? Who did the killing? You did, right? I still have culpability in that because I put the battery in your back.
Sure.
So following that logic, yes, men can influence women to do something, but if this is the case, then this is dangerously close for men to be spouting or saying that men responsible for this, because that's one of those feminist talking points to say, well, if men didn't like it, women wouldn't do it. And then what that also does is that removes the autonomy from women, because men can influence, request, suggest, say that they like, lead to, encourage women to do whatever. But at the end of the day, women are autonomous adults and humans. They do what feels good to them. A lot of these women on social media aren't doing that because of men. If you ask them, they'll say they get dressed for themselves. They'll tell you that they go get BBLs for themselves. They'll tell you that they go smell good for themselves and then walk around with the ass out for themselves. So knowing that and assuming that's true, we can't say that men are the leaders in the influencing of women, because if we were, then what we say would matter more than what other women do, and it doesn't.
I think, and then I'll pass it because definitely want to hear other people's perspective. I think that you have a solid point in the way you're delivering it, but I always will look at understanding our real strength and position on this earth. And this is why sometimes it sounds harsh. Women they're autonomous, but their influence is directly tied to us. Now, they do have the ability to have their own thoughts. They do have the ability to, you know, carry out certain abstract actions that we may not agree with. We can go all the way biblical with that and see what happened in the garden, right? But at the same time, what carries on to what is their reaching point of satisfaction, desirability, they're not that original. Like, they say one thing, actions do it completely different. No woman I've ever spoken to has ever been able to tell me what success looks like without it directly mimicking the ideals of a man. So we inject their perspective. We're responsible for how they even formulate thought. Again, that is also biblical. And if we're going to hold men as responsible in being leaders, we have to take account for the fact that some of what we see was echoed. Now, how they decide to carry it out and what we allow them to carry out, again, falls back to us. The behavior that a lot of women exemplify is because men don't place boundaries to say this is not okay. You're one of those men that have strong foundations. Sharon, Trev, and White. So the behavior that the women we have in our life doesn't exemplify the masses. Why? Because we didn't buy into that same propaganda.
Fuck
Mom,
you.
the face. Go ahead. What? Oh,
Yeah,
mine.
Man,
you all right. You know you involved. You know you part of the crew.
So true. I agree with you in so to answer the original question, I think that it's parents about 65 to 70% responsible. The individual is about 30% responsible for how they operate within that. And of the parenting, the father is about 80% responsible of the direction and the flow of the house. So if you allow like crazy stuff to go on and become normalized within your house, or a societal influence like social media or friends to dictate how things run in your house. Like if somebody could say, well, my friends got a cell phone, why don't I have one yet? And they in first or second grade, and you let them bully you into that based off of what social media society is doing, that's your fault as a father. You should have said, no, that I see how this can be negative. I see how this can affect you. I see how this can be problematic. No, I don't care who disagrees with that. I feel there's going to be a problem with this, and I'm trying to look out for the best interest of my family. So I'm going to stop this right here. And if you, as a man, selected a wife like you was talking about, or a woman like to raise kids with, they will understand that, hey, this man looks for what's in the best interest of the family. And even if they don't fully understand it, they're going to support you because they know like your track record has been built up of doing what's right behind the family and putting them first. So you're not doing things from a villainous, men are evil, we're trying to attack you stance. It's more so, let me protect you, let me make sure I put you in the best position to win. And even if you don't understand it, I understand you, so I know where you're going with this. And that boils down to the man. And if you end up in a relationship or a parenting situation where you have zero control over what happens with your child, that also is your fault as a man.